What if a shopping mall so big you could fit 2 Mall of Americas inside it, with room to spare? A mall with its own Venetian canal over a mile long, with real gondolas. A replica Arc de Triomphe at the entrance. A giant Egyptian sphinx. An indoor roller coaster that loops above the shoppers. Now imagine you walk inside and there's nobody there. No shoppers, no staff, just empty corridors, dust, and the sound of your own footsteps echoing off the marble. That's exactly what happened here in Dongguan, China. For more than 10 years, the world's biggest shopping mall was almost completely empty. We're talking less than 1% full. Today, I'm taking you inside this place, how it was built, why it failed so spectacularly, and what it looks like right now in 2026. Because the ending? You won't see it coming. To understand this mall, you have to understand the man who built it. His name is Hu Gurong. In the West, he sometimes goes by Alex Hu, and he didn't make his fortune in real estate, or tech, or oil. He made it in instant noodles. That's right, the guy who decided to build the biggest shopping mall on Earth got rich selling cheap packets of noodles to factory workers across China. By the early 2000s, he was a billionaire. And he had a dream. Hu was from Dongguan, a gritty manufacturing city tucked between Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and Hong Kong, right in the middle of China's Pearl River Delta. This region was the engine of China's economic miracle. Factories everywhere, 8 million people, money flowing in. And Hu looked at his hometown and thought, I want to put this place on the map. I want to build something here that the world has never seen. So in 2005, after spending around $1.3 billion, he opened the new South China Mall. And listen, when I say it's big, I don't think you understand how big. The total area is around 9.6 million square feet. That's more than twice the size of the Mall of America in Minnesota, which most Americans consider absolutely enormous. The leasable retail space alone is about 6.5 million square feet, designed to hold roughly 2,350 shops, 2,350. To put that in context, most big malls in your country probably have 150 stores, maybe 200. This place was built for over 2,000. And it wasn't just big, it was theatrical. Hu divided the entire complex into 7 themed zones, each one designed to look like a different city or region of the world. So if you walked from one end of the mall to the other, you would pass through Amsterdam with its canal houses, Paris with that 82-foot replica Arc de Triomphe at the entrance, Rome with its columns, Venice with a 1.3-mile water canal running right through the middle of the mall, and real gondolas gliding down it. Then Egypt with a full-size plaster sphinx, the Caribbean with palm trees, and California with, well, California vibes. And right in the heart of all of it, they built an indoor amusement park with merry-go-rounds, kids' rides, and an 1,800-foot roller coaster that looped from the inside of the building to the outside and back in again. Outside, there were fountains, plazas, manicured gardens. The press called it surreal. Newsweek went as far as to call it one of the new wonders of the world before it even opened. The plan was simple: attract 100,000 visitors a day, become the shopping capital of southern China, make Dongguan famous. It was beautiful, it was ambitious, and it was about to become one of the most expensive ghost towns in modern history. Okay, so the mall opens in 2005, the ribbon is cut, the fountains turn on, the gondolas are ready, and then almost nobody shows up. On opening day, the mall welcomed roughly 10,000 visitors. Now that sounds like a lot, until you remember they were expecting 100,000. A day, 10% of the projection. And it got worse from there. Within the first year, less than 10% of the retail space had been rented. Within 3 years, that number had collapsed. By 2008, multiple reports estimated that occupancy was under 1%. 1%. In a building designed to hold 2,350 stores, you had fewer than 24 tenants. The rest were just empty glass storefronts with 4 lease signs taped to the windows. Photographers and journalists started flying in just to document it. PBS came and filmed inside. There's footage from those years where you'll see a single security guard walking down a corridor that's about the length of 3 football fields. Empty, echoing, with piped-in pop music playing for an audience of 0. So, what happened? How does a $1.3 billion project in one of the most economically active regions on Earth end up almost entirely empty? There were 3 big mistakes. Let me walk you through them. Mistake number 1. Location. Who built the mall on cheap former farmland in the Wanjiang district, about 34 miles from Dongguan's actual city center? 34 miles. And here's the killer. There was no direct public transportation to get there, no metro line, no major bus route. Even people who lived in Dongguan said it was a hassle to get to. If you couldn't drive yourself, you basically couldn't go. And in 2005, most factory workers in Dongguan didn't own cars. Mistake number 2, the wrong customer. Who designed this mall for wealthy, middle-class shoppers? Luxury brands? Designer goods? Imported European products? But Dongguan is not that kind of city. Dongguan is a factory town. The majority of its population were migrant workers earning a few $100s a month, sending most of their paychecks home to their families in other provinces. A worker who actually had a job at the mall told a CNN reporter back in 2013, and I'm paraphrasing, "People who come here to work in factories don't have the time or the money for shopping or roller coasters." That was the whole problem in one sentence. The mall was built for a customer who didn't exist in this city. Mistake number 3, the timing. In 2005, nobody could have predicted what was about to happen to retail. But within just a few years of the mall opening, Chinese e-commerce exploded. Taobao, JD.com, Alibaba. Suddenly, you didn't need to drive 34 miles to buy clothes or electronics. You could tap your phone and have it at your door the next morning. The mall was designed for 1990s shopping habits. It opened into a world that was about to leave physical retail behind. So you had the wrong location, the wrong audience, and the wrong timing, all at once. And the result was the most expensive empty building on Earth. By 2006, just a year after opening, Who had effectively lost control. A financial conglomerate tied to Peking University took over a controlling stake in the mall and tried to revive it. They renamed it. They added an IMAX cinema. They brought in more fast food chains. Nothing worked. By 2011, occupancy dropped again, back to that under 1% number. Now here's something I find wild. And most people don't know this. While it was sitting empty, the mall kept the gondolas running. The roller coaster kept operating. The staff kept showing up. They had merry-go-rounds spinning with no children on them. Picture that. A roller coaster screaming around an empty building day after day with nobody watching. It became a symbol, though, not just of one businessman's bad bet, but of something bigger, of China's runaway real estate speculation in the 2000s, of what happens when you build for fantasy instead of reality. So that's the dark middle of the story. And if this video ended right here, you'd probably remember it as just another cautionary tale. But something changed. Around 2015, CNN sent a team back to the mall, about 10 years after opening, expecting to find the same empty wasteland everyone had been documenting for years. And what they reported instead was surprising. The mall was buzzing. Large parts of the previously abandoned buildings were now full of shops, restaurants, entertainment venues. People were actually browsing, eating Korean barbecue, Italian food, Chinese food. Kids were laughing on the merry-go-rounds. So what changed? The new owners finally figured out the thing Who got wrong from day one. They stopped trying to be Beverly Hills, and they started serving the people who actually live in Dongguan. Instead of luxury brands, they brought in nail bars, affordable restaurants, phone repair shops, snack stalls, karaoke rooms, game arcades. They added a kids' marine park called C-Cube. They built out night markets with food vendors. They turned the central plaza into a green, lit-up social space where families come hang out after work. In other words, they stopped selling a fantasy of Europe to people who needed practical shops. They turned the mall into something the local community could actually use. And by 2020, the operating company reported that occupancy had climbed to 91%. 91%. From under 1% to over 90% in about a decade. They were projecting 98% the year after. Now, I should be honest with you here. Some recent visitors say those numbers might be a little optimistic. Footage from 2024 still shows large empty sections, especially on the upper floors. One traveler who went there recently said the ground floor is genuinely packed and thriving, but the second and third floors still have a lot of vacant retail space, so the picture isn't perfect. But compared to where this place was, it's a miracle. The mall is alive again, just not in the way Hu Guirong originally imagined. The gondolas still run down the Venetian Canal. The Arc de Triomphe still stands at the entrance. The Sphinx is still there, weathered now, watching over the plaza. But the people walking past it aren't the wealthy international shoppers Hu pictured. They're factory workers grabbing dinner with their kids, teenagers playing arcade games, couples taking selfies in front of fake Paris. It's not the wonder of the world anymore. It's just a really, really big neighborhood hangout. And honestly, that might be better than what it was originally designed to be. Here's the twist most people don't know. The new South China Mall is no longer the biggest shopping mall in the world. For years, it held that title, but as of today, that crown belongs to the Iran Mall in Tehran, which now has even more retail space. The South China Mall, by most recent rankings, has slipped to about 5th place globally, which means we now live in a world where Tehran has a bigger shopping mall than anywhere in America, anywhere in Europe, and anywhere in China. Let that sink in for a second. But honestly, I think the more interesting story isn't about who has the biggest. It's about what happened to the idea of these mega malls. Across China, dozens of huge malls built during the 2000s real estate boom faced similar problems. Many of them are now pivoting away from being shopping destinations and toward being experience destinations. Food halls, arcades, live shows, indoor parks, pop-up markets. Because here's the truth. In 2026, almost nobody needs to go to a mall to actually buy stuff anymore. Your phone does that better. So the malls that survive are the ones that give you a reason to be there in person, a reason to leave the house, to meet your friends, to eat together, to play. And weirdly, the new South China Mall, but aside, this disaster project that was built for the wrong reasons in the wrong place at the wrong time, accidentally figured that out, not through brilliant planning, but through pure necessity. It died as a luxury shopping cathedral. It came back as a community hangout, and it might actually be more useful now than it ever was at its peak. That's the part I keep thinking about. Sometimes the dream you build doesn't survive, but what replaces it can be something nobody saw coming. So that's the new South China Mall, once the biggest mall in the world, once 99% empty, now alive again, just not in the way anyone planned. If you ever find yourself in southern China, between Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and Hong Kong, it's actually worth visiting. Not because it's the biggest anymore, but because it might be the most fascinating mall on Earth. A monument to a dream that failed, then quietly came back. And here's what I'm wondering now, because for every mall like this one that came back from the dead, there are dozens of others across China that didn't make it. Entire ghost neighborhoods, empty skyscrapers, whole ghost cities built for millions of people who never moved in. I've been digging into one of them, and what's happening there right now is even stranger than what we just saw today. I'll show you that one next. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it, and let me know in the comments. Would you visit a place like the South China Mall? Or does the idea of walking through a half-empty fake Venice in the middle of China just feel too weird? I want to know. See you in the next one.